in the works who's starting to learn the trade of tenant government. So it's not a lot of time and not a lot of money, but it gives us an opportunity to bring in somebody
So cross-training.
as a, intern cross-training.
So how many hours do you anticipate this be?
God.
Is this a person new to us that you're hiring?
Yeah, it's
or-
just,
Yeah.
it's a, well, we haven't approached Leanne about it, and we need to discuss her role as an employee, I think. But I think what we were planning on was some sort of $12 an hour person or $13 an hour person over some amount of hours. I can do the math, I should have brought my notes on that.
That's okay, I can do it.
Would this person actually be doing redacting, or would she just be collecting information to be sent to
No,
whomever
just-
to redact?
I think it's just collecting the information, doing the groundwork.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And once again, we haven't hired anybody to do that. But I think it's becoming an expense, so we need to accommodate for it.
Mhm.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this budget?
I move that we approve the executive budget 4130 in the amount of $99,630.
In a
Second.
Gordon, second. All in favor? Aye.
Next.
Nay from our person in the red here, guy. And the usual.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's look at reevaluation of property, 4152, please. Our assessor.
Not a significant change.
Mm-mm.
We have the assessing at $36,372, and the utility assessing at $10,000. The 2017 budget was $45,664, and we're at $46,372. It's,
Is that after
What's that?
the assessing?
Did he-
Lloyd, it is Avatar that says our assessing, there's a subcontractor.
That's the computer, hardware, and Mr. Wood.
So
A
it's-
different line.
Pardon me?
The software is a different line.
Right.
This is the assessor himself.
This is the assessor himself.
We have a contract with this
That's right.
individual, is that correct?
Mhm.
So he's not an employee, he's a contractor?
Right.
I have a question. What sort of evidence do we get that they actually go out to the houses to actually assess? Because I know of some houses. I know of some
We're not
houses
gonna go
that.
out to every house and assess them, that's what we do when we do revaluation. So this is, if you put a garage on your house, I'm sure they're gonna show up at my house pretty soon. If you make a substantial change, you get a building permit, or there's some property exchange that happens, then they revisit that particular piece of property.
Okay. Because I know someone was building a house that they valued it as a completed 3-bedroom, 2-bath. He doesn't even have plumbing in his house. So I was just curious
Yeah.
how they assess someone like that. I think maybe
Well, we
sometimes.
can have them come in and we can all chat about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious. I mean, we're paying him, so.
Yeah.
He does take appointments. He
Yes.
comes in twice a month and I make an appointment times for him to meet with people.
occupancy permit on the house?
Yeah.
So they can meet with him.
And it's gated, so he actually called the assessor and it was, they couldn't get down there. So that's how they valued it, that they couldn't get to his house. They valued it as completed.
So this is a special circumstance.
Yeah, but I was just curious, I mean, I've never heard of such a thing.
Well,
So I
and
was just
that's,
curious.
I mean, the ultimate assessors are the selectmen, so if they have a problem, they should come and see us. And
Yeah.
this person's an agent for the selectmen's office.
So sometimes you're not allowed, entrance to the property too. They'll say, you can't come on the property.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
All right, I was just
You can
curious.
for a while.
I was just curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. May I have a motion?
One
Oh.
more question.
Yes.
So, you have a contract with him, so is it outlined in the contract what his amount is gonna be
Right.
annually
Right.
and,
Do we have a copy of it? No, I don't have it right with me.
that's
Oh,
quite
I
all
have it.
right.
I thought
But
I had my desk.
is it a multi-year contract or is it just something that
Wasn't it
you-
a 3 or 5-year contract, or,
I wasn't here when it was signed. so I
Lloyd, can
don't
you help me
remember.
with that?
I have it at my desk. I
The
think.
term of this agreement shall be for the period of January 1st, 2017 to December 31st, 2021.
Okay,
Page 2.
2017 to 2021.
Oh. So we don't really have a choice.
We have
Because we're an
paid this
ATM.
bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we can still chat with them about the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
I move that we approve revaluation of property department 4152 in the amount of $46,372.
Second, please. Bob?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Right.
7-0 on that one, Karen.
Thank you.
This next one is a revisit. My understanding is there isn't any change in the bottom line. It was that the Board of Selectmen felt it was a good idea to break down what department was
We wanted to
spending the money.
accurately reflect where
Yeah.
the legal budget was actually being expended.
So this is we've already approved the 42,800, so this is just something we can tuck in our books, I think.
I was curious about the legal ZBA. That one went to $1,000, and I was
Right.
wondering if there is a specific piece of litigation that you had in mind.
There was last year, so that we just used that for an example of what a typical year would be, but there's no litigation currently happening, although we did get. a
Although
letter.
there is
We got-
maybe,
we-
is my understanding.
Yeah, that's.
We have an active
Let me
letter.
start on that.
Well, I just started on that one, well, it's a maybe. Okay.
Mm.
I'd hate to take it out, if I might say.
Well, the bottom
No, I
line
mean, I
hasn't,
was just
hasn't,
curious
bottom
why.
line hasn't changed, but we wanted to,
Right.
it's not just the selectmen walling through legal money,
Yeah,
that they're actually other expenses.
okay. That's it on budgets. Back to tax rate breakdown.
So we don't need to vote on this since there's no change to the bottom line?
Correct. Unless you take issue with one of the line items. Does anybody have a problem with the way it was broken down? Looks good to me. All right, let's. We were talking about our tax rate, and just when the chief came in, Karen, somebody asked about years past tax rates. 2016 was $10.43. 2015 was $10.39.
What was 16 again, Carl?
2016 was 1043. And I'll repeat, 2015 was 1039. Thank you, Karen. I'll give these back to you before I
And that's
forget.
the total tax, the
Yeah.
biggest increases happened in the school tax.
Yeah,
Town tax, we actually moderated it down. And these were the difference.
So the breakout between the state education and the local education, has that always been about the same, or is that, did that
In the
change?
percentages,
could I see your papers there again?
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I guess.
the
I'm
school
just-
board passes a budget, and then
Right.
that's disseminated to the towns, and that amounts to that portion of the tax increase. The state sends out a memo, I think, as to what the state tax is.
But local education last year was, in 2016, was 350. 351.
Local education is gonna be fluid because it's not a static number based on the apportionment formula. Changes in student population can radically alter it, which is not so much what we've seen this year, but for example, if you read the Granite State News last week and the week before, talking about Brookfield's tax rate, well, their student population grew by 1/3. So that's radically going to alter their contribution to the school system.
So the state education that's now based on a combination of the town valuation and the number of students?
Yes.
And the state,
No, the
Well,
state,
state need, the state has to calculate its need based on the number of students. And then it's hard to get DRA to send anybody out to explain how they come up with their calculation of making that number. But it's premised upon the state need and then our portion of that state need.
And but they come up with that based on purely on the number of students?
In New Hampshire, right? That's my understanding.
yes. And then they assess based on the property values of the towns. So
The gross-
consequently, Muldenborough, Tuftonboro.
So it's a combination of the two?
No, we're talking
No.
just,
No,
we're
no,
just
no.
talking the state fund. We're not talking about the local portion.
Yeah.
This is just the state funds. This is based on a court decision that goes back
And what did they come up with?
more than
25 years.
25 years ago.
$3,300 is a basic education
Yes.
cost, and they multiply that times the number of students in the state, and then they figure out who's gonna pay it by the property value.
So
It has
that
no
you,
real bearing on the number of students we have here in.
Yeah.
absolutely none
No.
whatsoever. More on the quote unquote, on the ability to pay
The capacity.
of the less property rich towns in the state. Property rich, property values.
But it does help, for me anyway, to have it in chart form and have a perspective of,
We've
okay,
always-
what we're doing around the table is 25%
Yeah,
of
We've
tax
always
bill.
been with that 22 to 25, and we've been up to 28% on, but it's always been within that range, or at least for the last 10 years that I can remember.
And unfortunately, the legislature will never try to revisit that to see if that is fair.
There's more receiving towns than billing towns.
Yeah,
And this is a nice segue then into my next topic, House Bill 1452 that I was going to ask Gordon and Chip to speak to us about. I personally don't see it going anywhere, but I think it's something, I mean, people have mentioned things to me, so I talked with all of you about it.
well,
Did it make it out of committee? I didn't hear it.
no, not yet.
No.
Everybody here is familiar with the funding formula for the school district? Okay, 75, 25, average student. Okay. Well, if this bill was to go through, it would change not just the Governor Wentworth apportionment formula, but every co-op within the state of New Hampshire formula to go 100% based on property value. And that would be a very hard pill for towns like Wolfboro and Tuftonboro, New London, New Hampshire, because you look at Kearsarge, which has a very similar breakdown as to quote-unquote property-rich towns, and then less well-off towns, right on down on the whole cooperative school district corridor of the state. I spoke to the selectmen about this. I do refer to this as the 7-year locust plan because about every 7 to 10 years, this comes back up. Maybe, I've yet to remember a movement at the state level. I've seen movements within the Governor Wentworth
Right.
school district level over the years. This is the first time I've seen it go to be legislated at the state level.
And if, did Chandler get back in as speaker? Because the reason I ask is that if you look at the dynamic in the SAU up in Conway, if this were to pass, Bartlett would pay the lion's share of the school costs, and they don't have anywhere near the lion's share of students. And I can't imagine that the selectman from Bartlett, who's may or may not be the Speaker of the House, is gonna buy
Well,
that program.
As I said, I agree with Carla, I don't give it a whole heck of a lot of chance of passing because it's such a radical change.
Yeah.
The exact same bill failed in committee last year.
Yeah. But it
Well,
was,
the unfortunate thing is our local representatives signed on.
Well,
Unfortunately.
I think if you like to write, you could send a note to Cordelia. Anybody
Well,
else
he's
you'd like to?
kind of backtracked on that, hasn't he?
he is,
Yeah, he's been,
I've not spoken to him personally,
Hmm.
but people I have spoken to who he has been in contact with, but Max just raised his hand. He is trying to backpedal off this as quickly as possibly can.
so at least that's the information I got.
What's interesting, the representative from Brookfield told the Brookfield people when he was asked, wait a minute, I'm new to the legislature, it's my job to listen. The other thing is I represent half of the other districts in the school district. I need to think this through, so I was very impressed. His name is Bill Marsh.
Okay. Well, thank you. The last bit of correspondence I did get from Kara is just, I know we haven't worked on personnel administration yet, and we don't share names, but I thought it was included in your packet just how many of what plan type for health insurance the town would be looking at. 3 individual, 2 two-person plans, and 9 family plans, but we'll talk about that a little more when we review that budget.
The selectmen did vote on Monday
Okay, we'll move into your selectmen's
On the,
update, that's next up.
health insurance
Okay,
plan. We have decided to go with Anthem. It is a gross savings of 6,
It's on the sheet here.
the savings of,
$77,965.51.
yeah,
Yeah.
that represents a nice savings.
You're right.
Yeah.
It was. However, in order to make it work, we discussed how we're gonna handle the HRA, health reimbursement account for each employee, because one of our employees did the math. That person's out-of-pocket expenses, had we gone to the plan last year, although the cost of the plan is less, the deductibles and everything are higher, it would have caused an out-of-pocket expense increase of 60% from $2,344 to $3,915. So the discussion we had on Monday was the employer contribution to the HRA, and the math that worked out, although I had come up with one number, Bill Markson came up with a different number, and that's the one we voted on and agreed to. I don't know if you guys want to work on that now, or do you want to?
Well,
It actually ends up for a net savings to the town of $22,500 year to year. So a portion of that savings that we got from the reduced premium, but an increased out-of-pocket cost, was put back into the health reimbursement accounts of the employees. So the long and the short of it is we're paying less for health insurance. but not $77,000 less. We're paying about $22,000 less, $22,500.
Is HRA ends at the end of the year, or is it like an HSA where if we fund it, it rolls forward if they don't use it kind of thing?
No, it all comes back to the employer at the end of the year. It doesn't roll forward. Even the FSA that we've got structured rolls back into the towns.
So if they don't use all of that,
Right.
it comes back, so it could be more savings.
Right.
That number was 22,000.
500. And I'm sure we'll review this when we get that budget.
You will. And
Thank you, Jeff,
the,
for working on that.
I didn't want to lose the
I know.
22,500 to the road agent completely, so
Okay.
we'll keep working on that too.
You know, as long as we had moved ahead to new business, and I'm gonna bump you out of the way in a minute, Karen. Do you have any other updates for us? We have a little list here of the budgets we're still waiting on. I don't know if you've covered those or where you are with them.
What is that word?
Buildings,
Okay, so that would be Jack. Oh, no, town buildings?
town building.
On the government bill?
So we're gonna bring these budgets forward on, the insurance is done, but we're not gonna,
Okay, both,
both
The liability you've
the
done,
workers' comp and
and you've done,
the health insurance.
okay, because some of them are easy, like
Right,
animal
but
control.
we haven't gotten all of them into us yet. And
Financial
our direction.
admin. Excuse me, I apologize.
No,
Sorry,
what's
I'm
that?
sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted.
No, you're fine.
I was gonna say financial admin was done, that's something I think I didn't read
Okay.
it, jumped in, sorry.
So our direction to the staff was to have all the budgets to us by the next selectmen's meeting if they can, no later than the 12th of December,
Okay,
so that we can concentrate on
if we have to revisit it.
revisit or, and at some point in time, we're gonna have to look at warrant articles.
We didn't do health agencies yet either, did we?
And we haven't yet either. The charitable giving.
No, we didn't. 4415 is health agency.
So Ian hopes to have those ready for the selectmen on the 4th. And hopefully Diane's gonna have, so that like the buildings, the
Right.
health agencies and so forth,
Okay,
done on the 4th.
we're going right along. Do you have anything else for us, Jeff?
No.
Okay. Helen, CIP and graph updates.
Okay, on the CIP, we would like to meet with the Board of Selectmen and present our report on the 12th of December.
And that's meeting with us as well, correct? Presenting to us?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's to the Budget Committee, to the Budget Committee
Okay. And that will be up at the
at the town
town
house.
house.
That's on the 12th?
On the 4th.
The 12th of December, which is a scheduled
Yeah.
meeting for us. And we have a first pass at the report, which I'm
Okay.
working on at home. As far as the drafts, right now we have, we're still missing 26% of the income, or of the budget amounts. And if I drop in last year's budget numbers for the ones that are missing, we're still coming in at, we will be coming in at about 7% over last year's actual spending, because if you look at the graph, it's got actuals for the past 5 years, and the budget for the year for next year, for 2018. So if I look at kind of how much you have been spending of the budget every year,
Mhm.
it extrapolates that we'd be coming in probably about $240,000 more than our 2017 spending, which would be about a 7% increase.
And that's based on projected spending for 18, for 17?
Yeah, I kind of eyeballed how much, what percent of the budget got spent every year for the
Now, where was
last
this-
5 years, and
When we're thinking 3% or like a little over 114,000, 115,000
that
over
would
last
be
year's
over last
budget.
year's budget. But if you look at the graph, I dropped in the numbers, the actual numbers for spending for 2017, which I don't have yet and won't
That's at
have for a while.
the operating budget plus the warrant articles, or just the operating?
Just the
Just the
operating
operating
budget.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Does anybody else
So
have
I just
anything they
didn't
want
want
to?
people to be surprised when the budget comes in looking higher than last year.
I won't be.
Okay.
Well, last year there were some surprised faces around the table,
There
some
were.
shocked faces, and it's like,
We gotta kind of keep track of it.
you know, have been approving things over last year's budget all
Mhm.
along. How can you expect that it's not gonna be in the budget?
Okay. Yes.
Have there been any things that have been removed from the capital capacity?
What do you mean removed from the capital
They've been
capacity?
taken off the table because they're not needed?
You
For
mean-
example, the $230,000 grant for radios, for the radio antenna,
For next year, you mean?
yes?
Yes, actually, we're slightly over, but right about capital capacity for 2018.
And Clay Gallagher got the $30,000 Time Warner cable deducted down
That's
to
not in there.
$6,000, but that was a
Now it's an
capital.
operating budget.
But that was a capital,
It's no longer in the capital projects.
and also the
Additional highway money.
The highway number stayed flat to last year.
Okay.
when the boat ramp at Narrow Lake was under 10,000, that was removed from capital capacity.
I can't remember that off the top of my head, sorry.
The state had it at 40 some odd $1,000, and Jeff's gonna do it for under 10. That was a warrant article that was voted on.
If you'd like, well, next time we have a meeting, I'll bring a copy of of where we are.
And speaking of that, I'm going to move on to our next meeting date, unless anyone else has anything budget-related they want to talk about. No? Okay. We are scheduled on November 28th. Kara, this might be a good question for you. Does it look like we are going to have,
You have financial admin, workers' comp there, that insurance, that Primex, workers' comp and casualty or something?
enough for a meeting, or shall we move it all to December
And
12th?
planning. So all we would have for you is financial admin, planning and insurance. So it'd be super duper quick.
What say you folks? Would you like to skip the November 28th meeting and cover all of it December 12th? But keep in mind that's our presentation of CIP as well.
It doesn't appear that it would add that much to the 12th to,
Yeah, but your deadline for all of the things was the 12th, so we might have a bunch more.
9. Well, we're looking at 9 plus
Yeah.
if Jim
Plus
comes back, we'll have 10 budgets.
Yeah, so
So
move
yeah,
to the
but there-
12th, you'd have a whole more.
I'd
lot
have-
more.
we'd
Yeah,
have a
that's
whole
right.
bunch
I
more.
have,
Well,
but
we
no
could always-
appointments really.
We could always add another meeting after the 12th, if
Mhm.
we, or, let's see, what's the one after? There's,
Christmas, the day after Christmas. I'll see you here.
January 2nd, we have one planned.
Oh, the calendar doesn't go that
In fact, we have one for the 2nd of January, the 16th, and also February 6th. I think we're looking pretty good if we wanted to skip it.
So if we get overloaded on the 12th, we can always skip skip something forward
Mhm.
to January and not be in trouble.
No, I don't think so. Is that all right with everyone, or John?
Sure.
Is that, because I know you were worried about wanting to have things done as quickly as we can, but these just aren't ready for us yet.
Sure.
Okay.
12th is good for me.
All right, December 12th will be our next meeting. Do I have any public input? Max?
I just wanted to provide some more information that I have, which is not all of the information, but about that bill for apportioning school money. And I don't know if that's going to go anywhere because I can't find that bill in bill form. It's still in LSR form, which is like the pre-bill form. And I had emailed Ed Camo, the sponsor, about it, and also Glenn. And Glenn told me that he hadn't read the text yet, and Ed separately also said, yeah, Glenn hasn't read the bill yet and probably is going to withdraw his name.
Okay.
And I was just now looking to see if I could find it in actual bill form on the general court website, and I couldn't find it. So I know that the bill number 1452 is Paul from Oldenburg had put that out, but that bill number doesn't exist right now. So I don't know why that is. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. I'm not impugning anybody, but
Okay.
I don't think it exists right now. So at the moment, I don't think it's anything to.
Okay, thank you, Max.
It's
Anyone
out there in the
else?
ether.
Yeah.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got Bob and Guy on that, all in favor?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you, everyone.